Hello folks, so welcome back to the channel. Now, as you can see, this is a little bit different than what's normally put out every other week here on the channel, but I haven't had time to make this video properly, so I decided I'd just wait until I did have time. Figured it's better to make the video the right way than not at all. For those of you that don't know, this is the Charleston Area Model Railroad Club. Now, I have never been a member of this club, but it is a very cool club. However, unfortunately, it recently has closed. We'll get back to that in a minute. I have seen this club since just about its first day being open. It opened in late 2008, however, a lot of people say it opened in 2009, so that's probably one of those things of, yeah, it opened up in 2008, but they didn't have much going on until 2009. But I probably saw the club for the first time maybe 2010, something like that. And I remember the O-gauge layout. The circus has always been there. The town has almost always been there with the easy streets. Now this canyon has not, and everything to the left of the canyon, that's all fairly new. I remember when that was all just painted and originally was done in old tubular track. The Atlas track's been added recently. So I've seen this club. Every time I visit it, you've seen it here on the channel before, but every time I've visited, it's always been a specific trip. I've gone out of my way to go see the club. So I've never been a member because of that, but I've always really liked the club. So yeah, it's just a really cool club. This is one of my favorite new pieces to the layout, is this logging sawmill. I always thought that was kind of neat. But anyway, back to why they're closing. So the club is Charleston Area Model Railroad Club, and they are were located in the Citadel Mall. Now the Citadel Mall, I'm not quite sure exactly what happened. I know that an MUSC hospital is going into the space the club used to sit in, along with many other empty units that the mall owned. So not quite sure if they sold these spaces or if they're leasing them to MUSC or how that's working, but that is what, from my understanding, went down, and the club is now forced to relocate. Now, unfortunately, they want a space that's 4,000 square feet, but from my understanding, they're having a hard time finding a space for the club, you know, with all the legalities in that. So unfortunately, the club has not been able to relocate yet, as far as I'm aware of. If some of you all know, leave me down in the comments section. Have they figured out a space? But last time I checked their Facebook page on it, they have not reopened or found another location to start rebuilding in, which is quite unfortunate because this was a really cool club. And 4,000 square feet for a model train club is quite a bit, because like when you walk in there, it doesn't look that big because there's so many train layouts and there's so much going on. You kind of lose track of how much space is really being used until you figure out that, yeah, that's a 4,000 square foot room that this is sitting in. They have a lot of trains, which is great because it makes for nice wide walkways so the public can go and see the club just about any time. It was really neat. And then of course you had lots of room for trains, which is what it's all about, right? But unfortunately they are having to move, and that is very sad. Now fortunately, they do plan on reopening. Where that location is, last time I checked, we don't know. So hopefully soon they get to reopen, but until then the club remains closed. Now, I think all the buildings and most of the track work and all that has been, at this point, put in boxes and it's been put into storage, but the layouts have not been moved yet. Well, the layouts have been torn down and all that, but they have not been moved to a new location. I think, because I was talking with one of the members and they said they had to be out, I remember exactly when, later that month, or next month, or whatever it was. So I think everything's completely moved out at this point and all in storage. The question is, where are they going to set the stuff back up? Nobody knows yet. But the last day that they were open, I visited the very last day that they were open, by the way. And the club members, a lot of them were there, all running trains. Almost every layout had trains running on it, and it was really cool. You know, the O-gauge layout, the circus has always been, or the fairgrounds has always been a big thing on this layout. This is one of the pieces of the layout that has almost never changed. I'm sure some of the members that have changed some small things could point out more stuff than I could, but for the most part, this is exactly the way it looked several years ago. The fairgrounds have always been my favorite part, especially the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster. Swings are pretty cool, but yeah, I wish I got more footage of it, but unfortunately I didn't. You know, I was just going around videotaping everything I saw. There was even British trains there. I think I saw British and Japanese trains that day, which is pretty neat. So, if anyone's a member of the club and they know what's the future of the club, be sure to, maybe leave that in the comment section down below. Yeah. Hi, this is something that I found kind of interesting. Somebody put a Southern Crescent Pacific in the turntable pit on the layout. And I'll show a picture. I've got the picture of its tender. It's just sitting on a box under the table. Try and include that in the video. Hopefully I remember. But yeah, they also had, various steam trains running around. The turntable pit was one of those things that was kind of sad, or I should say the roundhouse. It was kind of sad to see, because normally the roundhouse and the shop complex is just full of cars and locomotives, and it looks busy. It looks like things are going on, and you could see that these last few days of the club, things had started to be put in boxes. Like this coal mine always had hopper cars in it. It always looked like things were going on. And you could tell that things have been put in boxes and things are beginning to be put away. They're preparing to close. Actually, there's did I videotape it? I might have. There is like a hanging, cart that hangs on a wire, and they used to move back and forth. I'm not sure if they still work. I think I looked at them and either they're unplugged or they're broken. I'm not quite sure. Things like that, never seem to last forever. This is something cool. I never even knew this existed. They had an HON3 section of the layout on this shelf that just seemed to run point to point, and it was just kind of cool. They had some shays and stuff up there. I guess it was actually dual gauge from the looks of it. That's kind of neat. I guess I never paid attention to that. That's the first time I noticed it. And yeah, so always kind of cool. So we're just kind of going through the video, looking at. I'll probably post another video without me talking over everything, maybe just some music and the raw sounds of the video. So yeah, this part of the layout's changed a little bit. These bridges, so see how there's 3 bridges? That one bridge that has track on it but doesn't actually connect up, that bridge was actually put in as a miscalculation. They thought they were going to be able to make that work, and then it didn't end up working out. And they just left the bridge as kind of like an abandoned bridge on the railroad, which was kind of a clever way to fix, something that went not as planned. But sometimes that's the way it goes on the model railroad. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so just some things. I think that's what we're gonna do with this video. I'm just gonna point out some goofy things throughout the video and talk about it. Like I said, I'll put a video out where we just have most of the raw sound and some music maybe. Yeah, my dad actually went with me on this because he's seen the club many times too. He called these red trees the Dr. Seuss trees. That was something that I thought would be kind of interesting to share. There actually might be some audio of us talking about it too. Maybe we'll share that later. Yeah, then they had all kinds of stuff. Yeah, this is the yard. It has changed a lot. I think this used to have like an elevated city section, but then they just put the city on the same level as the track. Yeah, some different things over the years have changed. Again, a model railroad is never complete. It's never finished. You finish one thing and you tear another thing apart because that's the way it is. Now this is the O-gauge layout, my favorite layout. It's always had the turntable and all that, but as you can see, a lot of things are out of place, and it's kind of sad to see because the layout's being pulled up and put in boxes. The town has from memory, almost never changed. I'm sure some members probably could tell me differently, that some things have changed, and I'm sure some things have changed, but from memory, most of the stuff is all the same. Actually, some stuff has changed. I remember there used to be a few more operating accessories way back when, but, you know, again, all railroads never finished. Now, these are some Japanese model trains. Oh, they even have a Bud car back there. But these are some Japanese trains, these coaches here, and then there's actually a Japanese engine in front of it. Here's the O-gauge layout. There never used to be fast track here. This all used to be tubular track, believe it or not. And then eventually they've redone it, and some of the track has stayed. Here's the Mallard. Some of the track has stayed tubular track because a lot of the guys that were on the post-war trains seemed to like it, is what they were telling me. And then they put the Atlas track in. That's also new, fairly new, because a lot of the guys like to run the modern trains and they work better on Atlas. Then the guard race track has been kind of used in the yards, and the switches are all kind of a whole bunch of stuff. But they've always had this roundhouse here. That's always kind of been the thing. There used to be a lot more track here, but you can see it's all kind of pulled up a little bit. Those black iron ore cars with the coal in them have always been there. Like, every time I've been there, they're always in the same place. They never seem to move, which, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, so they're saying that the tubular tracks for all the post-war guys, the Atlas tracks are the modern stuff. Then they mix some fast track in because I'm sure the switches were starting to have a hard time. Then they got some up-elevated loops for Marx trains because the big gears on the Marx trains don't go through Lionel switches or switches at all very well. They had the logging train running. This is one of the loops that they built for the Marx trains. I believe that fast track loop on the other table is all fast track. The one we're looking at now is fast track and tubular mixed. But yeah, the more I look at, the more I realize how much has changed. Kind of cool, kind of sad. Some of the things have changed just because they're closing. This was actually the layout back in 2025, around Christmas time. You can see they've put some snow on the layout. There's the Dr. Seuss trees again, but they're running some Christmas trains. This is actually the CSX Santa train. But like, here's where that roundhouse is, and you can see it looks like a lot of stuff's going on. There's locomotives in the roundhouse, there's freight cars, passenger cars everywhere. There's trains, more trains running than normal. There's some logging skeleton cars. Why are they there? Nobody knows, but hey, you know, there's trains and things going on. So it was kind of sad to see the layout, you know, where you could see a lot of the stuff has been boxed up and, you know, put in storage somewhere when it used to be running. Here's the O-gauge layout, and this might have been why some of the stuff was pulled up, because they always do a little bit of a Christmas display in this area. So yeah, I remember when they used to have one of them freight loaders actually in the town. So yeah, some of the things has changed. Like that freight, there used to be a regular post-war freight loader in the town. But yeah, here's a Christmas layout. Maybe we'll get some Christmas music in for this section. But yeah, a lot of stuff has changed. The more I talk about, I could talk about this layout forever. Besides the fact I was never a member, I could tell you all about this club layout because I have seen it for many years. I've always made a trip to go and see it. So yeah, pretty cool. I'm gonna miss the layout. But now we're gonna probably start wrapping the video up. But before we go, I do want to talk about these 3 loops that were on this elevated track. I have so many YouTube shorts filmed on these loops. There's always something going on. These are fairly new. Most of this track here is Menard's track, and then they got the guardrails S-scale track. They used to, from my understanding, have more of an S-gauge setup, but then the members never used it, and then they wanted some back after they tore the original American Flyer layout down, so then they put this little loop in with the S-gauge. But most of the track's Menards. It's always been kind of cool. Yeah, it's just neat. And then like the sawmill's fairly new. They also have a Lionel engine house back behind it, kind of behind that water tower. That's pretty cool. You don't see too many of those. And then I do want to just finish the layout talking about the fairgrounds, because the fairgrounds have always been something that catches everyone's eye. It's always caught my eye. I still push the buttons on this. They're just kind of cool. It's always cool to have all the motion on the layout. And it's cool to see the N-scale kind of park-sized train ride running, because that has sometimes been running and sometimes it's been broken. It seems to have always been kind of a finicky thing for them, so pretty cool to see trains running on that again. These were the only N-scale trains running on this particular day. The N-scale layout was already looking like it was torn apart, and no trains were running that day. But the swing set's always been cool, and yeah, it's just really, really neat. Let's see, the roller coaster is really cool, and then I think Lionel made that Ferris wheel. I've always wanted one of those. I know that they're hard to find. Yeah, and then they got the parachutes. They had the pirate ship. Pirate ship's cool. So yeah, a lot of cool videos been taken on this part of the layout. I wish I had gotten just a big picture of it. Let me know down in the comments, does anybody have just a big picture of the whole fairgrounds? Because that was one thing I neglected to get, that I really wish I got afterwards. But yeah, this is pretty much the whole O-scale layout and the whole HO scale layout. Like I said, if the N-scale layout was looking a little bit better, I probably got a little bit more footage of it, but it just wasn't looking that great, and no trains are running today. Yeah. Oh, this reminds me, now we're looking at the town. There used to be well, actually it's still there, I think. The trolley used to run. Yeah, you can see it there. There's a trolley shed, a trolley barn, but it's no longer running. I guess you don't really expect it to, because I'm sure some things have already been unplugged and whatnot. But it used to go into the trolley barn. You can kind of see it there behind the tower, and yeah, it was pretty cool. But anyway, folks, that's the end of me walking down memory lane. I hope you all enjoyed today's video of the Charleston Area Model Railroad Club. Yeah, anyway, as always, thanks for watching, folks. Please like, subscribe, share this video with your friends and family, and as always, see you on the rails.